Alright, so the first thing you're gonna need is 2 eggs, a 1/3 cup of any kind of vegetable oil, 1 cake mix. It is important that you, like, brand doesn't really matter, but that you check 15.25 ounces. I have learned Betty Crocker doesn't always make them quite that big, and then the texture is a little bit off. And then chocolate chips. So you're gonna crack your eggs into your mixing bowl. Add your 1/3 cup of vegetable oil. I like to kind of break up my yolks before I add my cake mix. I'm gonna add the entire cake mix, and with a rubber spatula, just kind of stir that around to get it nice and coated. No dry cake mix should remain. Just kind of scrape the edges as you go. Stir, stir, stir. And once it develops kind of a sticky dough, then you are ready to add your chocolate chips. I don't know if you can see, it looks like a really thick brownie batter. So I call these triple chocolate because I'm gonna add some white chocolate chips. It says about 1/2 cup, but I go with my eyeball. And if it doesn't seem like enough, you can always add more. And just fold those in to your dough. So you have your chocolate cake mix and your white chocolate chips and your semi-sweet chocolate chips. All right, so next you're gonna take a cookie scooper. I think this is like an inch, 1.5 inches, and just make up a big old scoop, kind of heaping scoop, and plop that on some parchment paper. You can tell this parchment paper is used. I actually am making several batches of cookies today, so you can reuse parchment paper supposedly up to 3 times. I don't really know if 4's gonna be too much, but good to know. Reuse it. And place these about 12 per cookie sheet, spread out, because they do tend to flatten and spread as they bake. One thing I recently learned about parchment paper is different parchment papers have different temperature levels that they can withstand. So be careful about that. I needed some that could go 450 for some sourdough bread recently, and all I had was 420. So watch your temperature for parchment paper if you have a need for a high temp. All right, so we've got our cookies on the cookie sheet. All right, we're gonna pop these in the oven at 350 for about 10 to 11 minutes. All right, I went ahead and scooped out the rest. So typically a box of cake mix for cake mix cookies makes somewhere between, I'd say, like 18 and 24. I must have scooped these a little bit on the larger side, but I did end up with 19. Right, so the triple chocolate cake mix cookies are complete. As you can see, they look delicious. I'm just gonna transfer them over to a cooling rack for a couple minutes, and then I'll show you the final result. All right, so as you can see, my triple chocolate cookies are on a cooling rack. They're still really warm, so I'm just gonna pick one and kind of show you the ooey gooey center. Delicious. It's gonna taste a lot like a really rich but soft brownie. Enjoy.